Oh god, I forgot you can see a bit of me in the video. Anyway, hi! Sorry it's been a little bit since I've uploaded anything, or rather specifically anything of this series. I've had a couple things that I've wanted to work through, and I couldn't really decide which one I wanted to do first, and I ended up deciding to do this one, because honestly it's probably the more interesting of the ones that I actually have footage for. So this is my next episode of At the Arcade, where I talk about arcade games here in Japan that may or may not end up overseas. This one, at least not officially, seems to have gone overseas. From what I've been able to find, there's been a couple of people who imported it and whatnot, but there's nothing official that I could find. So anyway, however, this is Densha De Go, which is it's a train simulator, basically. Densha literally meaning train, so you go by the train. Anyway, it's like I said, it's a train simulator, mostly on the more the JR line trains, most notably the Yamanote line, which is one of if not the busiest train lines in all of Japan, seeing as how it's the central train line of Tokyo that connects all the majorly important places in Tokyo together, and it's always super busy. Of course, there's a lot of other train lines that you can play in this game, but for the beginner mission that I did, it was a Yamanote line train, because this actually was my first time playing this game. I had seen a friend of mine playing it, and actually that same friend of mine is the one who was holding the phone for me, because admittedly with the 3-screen setup you can see that this arcade game has, because it's in a big booth, this would have been a total pain to try to record on my own. So the fact that I was at the arcade with a buddy, and said buddy was able and willing to record for me, that made this a heck of a lot easier. So Densha De Go actually is part of a series of the same kind of games, starting all the way back in 1996. Oh Jesus Christ, I'm only just barely older than this game. Anyway, this arcade machine is the one that came out originally in 2017 and is the most recent of the arcade iteration. From what I found, there was another console game in the series that came out after the arcade machine here, but it's pretty straightforward. You have the 3 screens, which are more or less like your windows outside of the train, essentially. Then you have the smaller screen in front of you, which when you're in the game will show your gauges and stuff like that, but when you're out of the game will show your menu for you to scroll. You might have seen a little bit of that at the beginning, but then basically you have one stick on the left that has your throttle and your brake. You have another stick on the right that also has a bit of a brake thing, but you only use that for certain train lines. For the Yamanote line, like I was on for the beginner mission here, I did not have to use that stick. But basically, you pull it towards you to go faster. You push it away from you if you want to stop. Now, you do have to hit a button, kind of like a stick shift, I guess, for the lack of a better word, but essentially you have to hit a button to get it to actually move. And then you'll be able to see, as I pull into the station here, I vastly overestimated just how soon I was going to have to start braking, because I ended up stopping pretty darn short, as you'll see in a moment here, because you can even see it's telling me oh, you need to hit the brakes, and I kind of overdid it. I ended up stopping a good several meters short, to the point where I literally needed to take off the brake, put the accelerator back on just a little bit to inch forward, and then come to a stop. Because I had seen a buddy of mine play this game, and every time I saw him play it, he always ended up underestimating the brakes and stopping over the line. So I tried to compensate for that and ended up stopping short. But the game itself is pretty simple. You follow the instructions. It'll tell you sometimes that you need to be over a certain speed or under a certain speed, and then obviously when you pull into the station, you have to stop so that people can get off, and then when you go to take off, you also have to make sure that your doors are closed before you actually take off and such. With some stages, you might have to honk your horn as you go over bridges to let potentially cars beneath you or anything, or even potentially construction crews, let them know you're there. And it can get fairly complex, but for the most part it's pretty simple. You just follow instructions and then pull the stick to go. This is admittedly though one of the more expensive arcade games. Actually the tutorial one that I'm doing here was 200 yen, but missions, or I guess runs of this, can cost anywhere between 2 to 500 yen, and it purely depends on essentially how far down the train line you want to go. No Shinkansen, no bullet train, unfortunately, but that also kind of makes sense because otherwise you would be there forever. And the line for this game is already long enough because this game is surprisingly popular still. I'm assuming because of the sheer number of train otaku, or at least the ones that seem to live near me, because every time I go to the arcade, this is one of the machines where there's always a line. I got lucky with this time, and we managed to go in right after they had finished like doing some maintenance on a machine behind it, so they had to move this so that they could get to it, and they fixed that, and me and my buddy were able to go in and play for a little bit. But while we were there playing, there actually was a guy waiting behind us, which is why after I finished the tutorial mission, you'll potentially see in the video here, after we finished the tutorial mission, we ended up cutting it, and then I got up and we went on to other stuff so we could let the other guy play. But yeah, this is actually one of the more simple, yet I think it's still pretty fun, arcade games. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out. It's also kind of hard to royally screw up, but I think it is kind of fun, if you know, nothing else, you know, in one of those like vehicle simulator kind of game senses. I don't know. I don't really have a better way to explain it. I think this is something that admittedly you kind of have to try it for yourself to see what you think of it. Although before I do end this video, I do want to point out one little thing of trivia that I found. So apparently the series Densha De Go, there was a parody crossover thing with Densha De Go and Initial D, and that is what spawned the multi-track drifting meme. The more you know. Anyway, I've taken up more than enough of your time by now, and I will go ahead and let you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Have a good day.